and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we are back with more news and politics from around the world. And this is for June, no, it's no longer June, July the 1st, 2023. So, first day of July. But let's look at this. I think that should be, yeah. Over the past 200 years, this has been, what did it say it was? Income share going to the top 100 for the last 200 years. And in China, it was right around the 15, 16, 17% mark. We see a spike around the year 1900, and it pops up to 25%. But it would see in the probably around World War II a massive drop. There was a bit of a slide off before that, which I think we can contribute to around the Great Depression of the 1930s. But you can see World War II in the 1940s, we see that steep drop off. There's a bit of a valley and it slowly climbs back up. So it's about to what it originally was, 16%. Now, we look at France. It was a little higher. The top 1% was getting maybe 19%. There was a slight raise, slight drop, back up. Bit of a rocky point here. Like I said, I think that's around the Great Depression era. And then, of course, we have the great drop off, World War II. So it struggles, tries to get its way back out, falls back a little bit, and slowly climbs back up and back down. So you can see how the 1% have been held under foot in France. They only own 9% of the wealth. Russia, the 1%. It's right around 16%. They have a slight growth. Then we hit this point right here, which is the Bolshevik Russian Revolution. And yeah. So they take over the country from the last royal family. And it stays pretty steady. 1% tries to make a climb in the 1950s but goes back down. And so they do a fairly good job on holding the 1% underfoot. Then we get out of being the USSR and it skyrockets. The age of the oligarch in Russia. And we're at 24% now. Sweden. It was pretty high to begin with, about 24%. And, was pretty steady. Then there was this massive drop off in the during the Great Depression, World War II, Cold War, some struggles, but they've held the 1% under just at 12%. Now we get to the UK, 25%, and then even higher at one point. Then we have a fall. World War One, Great Depression, World War II, and finally it hits a rock bottom here in, I guess, about the 1980s. And it's climbed back, the 1% has climbed back. Right now they're held at about 13% of country's wealth. And then, of course, the United States. 1% owning around 14% of the wealth, continuing to grow. We see a drop, and then we get the rise. We have the rise here of the Gilded Age. Now remember, this right here is from the Civil War, Reconstruction. So they start growing back. We get into the Gilded Age, and we hit the height of around 20%. There's some ups and downs, but yeah, this, we're talking about the J.D. Rockefellers, Andrew Carnegie's, J.P. Morgan's, but there's some struggles. Great Depression, World War II, and then they start holding down the 1%. And you notice the growth, America's big moment of growth and everything, 1950s and 60s, when we have the 1% held down. They're not job creators, they're money consumers. But anyway, yeah. I mean, even Eisenhower had a wealth tax of about 90%. After so much, 90% of every dollar went to the government. So you still made the original millions that wouldn't be taxed. But then, and that's what should be done now. But, oh, they cry and whine. We get into the 1980s. We have a drop here. But as we go further into the 80s, Reaganomics, into the 90s, 2000, 2010s. Now we're at 19%, though it's been higher. Not by a lot. But yeah, you can see how everything affected the 1% income of a country. So the top 1% and how much of the income of a country they owned. From, I guess we're looking at about 1800 to now. Uh, yeah, the U.S. kind of stands out in this regard that it's up and down, up and down. 1% gains wealth and then they're held back down to help the average American. And then the 1% gets their power back and start owning more of the wealth and then they're held back down. You know, here we're seeing the regulations and uh, the public programs to help the average American. We hit somewhat into the 80s and all of a sudden the 1% start getting richer again. Reaganomics, people. And again, the 1% is not what should be used to judge how wealthy a country is. If that was the case, this would be much higher for the U.S. I mean, seriously. But yeah. This is a graph I thought we should take a look at here. Same-sex marriage attitudes and legality across 24 countries. Green, same-sex marriage is legal. Blue, same-sex is not legal. Okay, the Americas. It is legal in a number of countries here. The countries we're going to look at, all 5 of them, it is legal. In Canada, there is a 79% favorable view of same-sex marriage. Argentina, down here, 67%. Mexico, 63%. The United States, 63%. Brazil, 52%. So all of them are over, have a majority, favorable view on same-sex marriage. Now let's look at Europe here. It is legal in a number of countries, but notably, Poland, Hungary, Italy, and Greece, it is not legal. In Sweden, it is legal. Where you at, Sweden? There you are. I kept thinking Switzerland. Sweden, it is got a 92% favorability view. The Netherlands, it has a 89% favorability view. Spain, 87%. France, 82%. Germany, 80%. Italy, it is actually illegal, but it has a 74% favorability view, which is an interesting outlier here. The UK, it's at 73%, but the other countries where it's not legal, it's just underwater. Greece, 49%. Poland, 41%. Hungary, 31%. Now, let's go ahead and look at a few Middle Eastern and African nations here. These actually have negative favorability views. They are underwater in their favorability. How the population sees it. In South Africa, it is legal, but 38% only see it favorably. Israel, it's not legal, and 36% only see it favorably. Kenya, again, illegal and only 9%. Nigeria, illegal and 2%. So, yeah. Now, finally, let's go into Asia. Okay. Asia and Australia. Australia itself, it is legal, and they have a 75% favorability view. A lot of these other countries we mention here, though, it's illegal, even though there is a favorability view. Japan has it illegal, but 74% of the population view it favorably. The right to have gay marriages. India, it's illegal, but 63% view it favorably. South Korea, it's illegal, but they're underwater there at 40%. And Indonesia, this little chain here, it's illegal, but only 5% view it favorably. So that is interesting. Let's go ahead and look at this. I won't get into this too deeply, but Happy Canada Day. Let's talk about genocide of First Nations people. There is an unfortunate taste of bitterness in the way Native Americans, Indigenous, First Nations people have been treated in North America. You know, Canada, the United States, and then, of course, it wasn't great the way they were treated from Mexico down either, but because you had the Spanish conquerors, and then as you get into South America, you've also got Portuguese conquerors, and the way it was split in South America to decide which country got what was the Treaty of Tordesillas. Portugal mainly getting Argentina, Brazil. The other side was Spanish territories. But yeah, I won't really read this, but I thought I would add it because again, it's something we need to be aware of as individuals. Interesting picture. Kim Il Sung stands with his future wife, Kim Jong Suk, when they were anti-Japanese guerrillas in the 1930s. So yeah. And you can kind of understand why Kim Il Sung had this popularity to him. He fights off. He's one of the soldiers that helps fight off the Japanese during what led up to World War II. He would eventually take control of North Korea, you know, dividing the land, causing the split of Korea itself. And then, of course, in control, he defeats the Americans and drives them back. So, but it all seemed to go downhill from there. they're in just a horrible shape as a nation and everything else. So yeah. This is from AP. Judge awards a black church $1 million after its Black Lives Matter banner was burned by Proud Boys during their protest. A judge on Friday awarded more than $1 million to a black church in downtown D.C. that sued the far-right Proud Boys for tearing down and burning a Black Lives Matter banner during a 2020 protest. Superior Court Associated Judge Neil A. Kravitz also barred the extremist group and its leaders from coming near the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church for making threats or defamatory remarks against the church or its pastor for 5 years. For courage and determination to fight back in response to the 2020 attack on our church is a beacon of hope for our community, and today's ruling showed us what our collective vision and voice can achieve, says Reverend William H. Lamar IV, pastor of the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church, in a statement from the church's council on Saturday. While the church refuses to be silenced in the face of white supremacist violence, that does not mean real trauma and damage did not occur. Merely the congregants and the church have and will continue to rise above it. So yeah. I'm glad they won against the Proud Boys in the lawsuit. This is from newsmedical.net. The WHO, World Health Organization, to declare artificial sweetener aspartame as possible carcinogen. So yeah, when you think of any diet soda or other diet drinks that don't have sugar, sugar-free, usually the sweetener, aspartame. So yeah, the International Agency on Research on Cancer, which is the cancer arm of the World Health Organization, recently indicated that aspartame will likely be declared a possible carcinogen to humans. There's been suspected, negatives to aspartame for quite a while. Okay, this is from Common Dreams. Cesspool of corruption. Democrats reintroduce bill to impose Supreme Court term limits. Our founding fathers intended for lifetime appointments to ensure impartiality. The decision today demonstrates how justices have become partisan and out of step with the American public. Absolutely. Absolutely. They've taken advantage of the fact they're lifetime appointments, and they do not care about impartiality, trying to do what's best as a justice. No, they're partisan hacks. Anyway, from The Hill. Oh yeah, I got 2 articles from The Hill and from Newsweek. I got this just because they seem so opposite of each other. From The Hill, Trump supporters boo, calling Lindsey Graham a traitor at a South Carolina rally, while in Newsweek, Trump's motorcade is heckled at Moms for Liberty event, calling him a traitor. So, yeah, you could see the splits in the Republican Party. They've been seeping in slowly and surely. The left has always argued amongst itself, but the right now has immense confrontations within the party itself. Although, I say the left, it should be the Democrats, because very few of them are true lefties, or even to the left of center. But this is from Sage Journals. Perceptions of bisexual individuals depend on the target gender. Alright, the abstract reads, across 3 experiments total of around 1,149 subjects, we examine whether bisexual men, more so than women, are viewed as similar to their same-gender gay counterparts, and whether bisexual women, more so than men, are viewed as similar as their same-gender heterosexual counterparts. We find support for the notion that bisexual men are stereotyped as more similar to their gay counterparts than bisexual women are. These perceptions of bisexual targets' stereotypical similarity to their gay counterparts were linked to identity-denying perceptions that bisexual individuals are actually gay, a belief held more strongly about bisexual men versus women. Bisexual men and women are viewed as possessing stereotypically heterosexual characteristics to similar extents, although bisexual women versus men were indeed more strongly characterized by the identity-denying belief that they are actually heterosexual. Collectively, these findings suggest the bisexual men and women encounter different challenges to their identities that may require different interventions. But yeah, essentially what they're saying is bisexual, which is supposed to be someone who is attracted to both sexes, you know, men and women, male, female. The male bisexuals are often equated to just being gay men, more so than female bisexuals being equated to gay women. I think part of this has to do with the fact that many men can get off on women being sexually attractive when they're with other women to men. So yeah, more so than a man and a man. Even to women, they're usually more sexually attractive. So lesbianism is a big search on porn sites. So I'm not too surprised. This is from BBC. And this is from Barron's. We got two articles on it. But yeah, there was a shooting in France. Macron accuses rioters of exploiting the teen killed by police. At a crisis meeting, France President said more officers would be deployed to contain the violence, but stopped short of declaring a state of emergency. He urged parents to keep writing children at home and social media platforms to remove certain content. France has been rocked by 3 nights of unrest after Nahel M, 17, was killed as he drove away from a traffic stop. Sounds a little too American. You sure this didn't happen in the U.S.? More than 915 arrests were made on Thursday night alone, officials said, and the government announced it would deploy 45,000 police officers in a bid to contain further violence. Emmanuel Macron said that about a third of those arrested for rioting were young or very young, with Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin later clarifying that some were as young as 13. I'm not surprised, because the younger generation is a lot more active and aware because they feel they have to be, with the lackadaisical looks at society and everything and the wrongs that have just stagnated. Imploring parents to take action, he said it was their responsibility to keep their child, any child intending to protest, at home. Mr. Macron condemned the violence of the last 3 days with the greatest firmness and said Nahel's death had been used to justify acts of violence, calling it an unacceptable exploitation of the adolescent's death. Trying to see if they mention. Okay. France's capital has been at the heart of the unrest because Nahel lived in Nanterre, a northwest Parisian suburb, and was killed there just after 0900 on Tuesday, 9 a.m. I'm assuming 9 a.m. He was shot after refusing to stop for a traffic check and died after emergency services attended the scene. A video shared online in the hours following his death showed 2 police officers trying to stop the vehicle, with one pointing his weapon at the driver. The officer who fired the fatal shot has since been charged with voluntary homicide and apologized to the family. His lawyer said he is devastated. Nahel's death has reignited debate around the state of French policing, including a controversial 2017 firearms law, which allows officers to shoot when a driver ignores an order to stop. More widely, it has led to questions of racism in the force. So, yeah, there's so much that is questionable whether they should have fired or not Mm-mm-mm. Here you can see a map of different locations in France where some of the protests have been held. I believe it appears Paris. We got Lyon, Amiens, Marseille. Yeah. So Paris, and you could see several protests just in Paris. But French police union calls rioters vermin. So this is also going on. The police not having a good attitude of rioters. Unions representing half the French police on Friday said they were at war with vermin in nights of rioting over an officer's shooting of a teenager during a traffic stop. Violent protests have seen thousands of cars burned and hundreds of arrests in growing crisis that authorities were scrambling to contain. Today, police officers are at the front line because we are at war. The Alliance Police Nationale and UNSA Police Union said in a statement anchoring far-right turns of phrase. Far-right police officers. Oh my God, how could that happen? Now, we're going to watch a video here. Lula, I think it's Lula da Silva's his full name. The new Brazilian prime minister. He was a former prime minister of Brazil as well. Can't remember if they use prime minister or president. But they accuse us of being communists, as if we would be offended by that.
Ele nos acusa de comunistas, achando que nós ficamos ofendidos com isso. Nós não ficamos ofendidos. Nós ficaríamos ofendidos. Nós ficaríamos ofendidos se nos chamasse de nazista, de neofascista, de terrorista, mas de comunista, de socialista, nunca. Isso não nos ofende. Isso nos orgulha. Muitas vezes. E muitas vezes nós sabemos que merecemos esse ataque.
Yep. So he says, I've got no problem being called a communist or a socialist. I mean, I'm proud of it. Just as long as you don't call me a Nazi or a neo-fascist or a terrorist, which are the far right-wing definitions. Technically, terrorism can happen on both wings, but yeah. Neo-fascists, Nazis are right-wing ideologies. Alright. Stop. I need you to pause. Thank you.
Why can't you call your dog off? Why can't you call him off? Why is he still ripping his arm? I'm comfortable. You have no control of your dog whatsoever? Are you kidding me? I'm comfortable. You guys got 3 guys versus 1. You can't get the dog out?
Hey, get back now.
Yeah, so the police officer can't control his dog, which is attacking a handcuffed suspect. Police officer was unable to control his service dog, which viciously mauled a handcuffed suspect. Yeah, you wouldn't let go of his arm. It's ridiculous. And they're like, get back, get back. There is nothing they are doing to interfere. They are just documenting, which should be 100% allowed. People who are afraid of situations being documented have something to hide. Now, yeah, grown man threatens to attack a 15-year-old and throws mock punches only to end up on the ground crying.
Don't do it. That's why your eye bleed. That's why your eye bleed. I took the beating because you took the beating because I would have gone to jail. I know you would. And I'll be wrong if I knocked the fuck out of him right now, wouldn't I? I would have gone to jail. Get the fuck out. I would have gone to jail. Well, you see, record it. Come on, record it. Record your hand too. Record your hand too. That's why you was on the ground. You got punk ass. Then what? Now, do it. Do it. Do it. You see this, right? So when I knock you the fuck out, don't say nothing. I got it. This ain't gonna count. When I knock you the fuck out, don't say nothing. Yeah, so the knock you the fuck.
Oh, that is an attack.
Boom. 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 Boom.
The other guy didn't need to get in and do kicks. You can hear him crying now. He wanted to be a big tough guy, but he gets his ass beat. Need to go to jail. He was the one who first struck.
You gonna murder me? Yeah, you wanna come and kick him?
Yeah, the guy who did run in and do the kicks, that was dirty. He needs to be potentially charged with something. But the other guy, yeah, that was legal. That was fine. He was using self-defense and beat the shit out of him. That's what happened. Oh, goodness. But, yeah. These have been the news and articles, politics, videos, everything I wanted to talk about for July 1st. Saturday, July 1st. Thank you all for watching. As always, educate thyself, if my finger can work correctly. Think, read, study, learn. Someone says something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my sources in the description box below the video. But, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.